Jane Malthus, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you again. What do you do at the museum?
I am an honorary curator for the dress collection here, but in this case, the dress collection includes these mid-20th century soft toys.
Beyond dresses, is this an interest of yours?
Not necessarily, but this came about because we collected from this particular donor, Jane Barker Eames, a lot of work that her mother had made in the middle of the 20th century, because it was a fascinating history of textiles. So most of Frances's output, the mother's output, was in fact patchwork, and she made a huge number of patchwork bedspreads, dressing gowns.
So that's just what I would call oddments.
Yes, we think
pieces
that
of
she
materials
used pieces of fabric that friends, family, maybe even businesses donated to her for the patchwork. So she did. If I can just take a step backwards, the reason why she did all of this work, including making these soft toys, is that she was definitely housebound and possibly bedridden for a very long period of time with severe rheumatoid arthritis. Now, clearly it didn't affect her hands to the extent that she couldn't sew.
I was going to ask the question.
Excuse me. The other fascinating thing in a way is that Jane Barker Eames was a physiotherapist. She'd trained in physio during the Second World War, in fact. So she knew the therapeutic value of having her mother do things, make things, but obviously it needed to be something that didn't involve machinery. So hand stitching was the way they went.
She had quite an imagination, didn't she? I mean,
absolutely.
If we have a parking warden here.
Exactly. So we've got this little, we think, traffic warden type person. Could be a police person, but or it could be, you know, somebody who worked on the railways and the carriages of the
well, the expression is inscrutable. We don't really know.
Exactly. I like the fact that she's got grey hair, however. She's not a young woman necessarily.
She probably started 2 weeks before.
We're not clear about where the inspiration for these toys came from, but I have seen some of them, like these squirrels, for instance. There are quite a few. There's a sort of menagerie of squirrels. In Stitchcraft magazine, so that was a magazine that came from Britain.
That would have patterns?
Well, I don't know about patterns, but certainly ideas. And soft toys, is the other thing, is a bit of a misnomer for these, because these are stuffed quite hard, probably with sawdust, which was something people used, dry sawdust back then for.
But of course.
But each little squirrel has its own little nut in the form of a bead, which you quite like.
I mean, one can see how therapeutic this would have been done. But lots of people made dolls at that era, didn't they?
Well, I think so. I don't know about lots, but certainly some. Making dolls or making dolls' clothes was certainly something that was...
probably what I meant.
Yeah.
I guess was, dolls' clothes in particular.
Popular. I mean, I think by this time, the 50s and 60s, you know, plastic dolls had come along, but people would still make clothes for their dolls or their children's dolls. But this is kind of another step on, in a way, from that, where you're making the whole doll and, you know, giving it a bit of character. Father Christmas with his little
Cupid.
He's got a little Cupid dolls.
Yes.
They're little plastic
every
ones,
girl's
actually.
Christmas delight.
Exactly.
Those strange little Cupid dolls.
Exactly, but
androgynous sort of things.
Yes, I'm quite fascinated by the way they did the eyes.
What's that? Of the doll?
Yes, the sort of you know, staring visage, as it were. But so Frances, you know, had this affliction, obviously. Made all these dolls. Some of them were given to charity, some of them were sold through their church and the school, but she also entered them in the winter show, I discovered. So I found reference in the newspapers to the fact that she won prizes.
She won, yes. So briefly, what is the real importance to the museum of having them?
I think they show mid-20th century craft work, use of textiles in forms other than clothes. For for example, people doing various kinds of needlework. I mean, they are idiosyncratic, you know.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, and they're full of character. And we wouldn't collect a huge number of these kinds of things, but it's great to have this one collection from a particular individual where we know a little bit of the history and the reasons why she made them.
Thank you very much, Jane.